Hi, everybody. Welcome back to episode 8 of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I am Emma Levez-Laroque. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, a certified plant-based chef, and a Food for Life instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And today, in episode 8, we are going to tackle one of the questions that came in this week about foods that are good and not so good to eat if you have type 2 diabetes. So the question was, I wonder if you could talk about foods or recipes for diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I have a relative who has type 2 diabetes and it's uncontrolled. We have heard that all fruit but berries are bad. Is that true? And are there vegetables that should be avoided? So I love this question. I talked about this a lot in my classes, foods that are, helpful if somebody is dealing with type 2 diabetes. Before we launch into this, though, just to talk about a bit about the background, I just wanted to say just talk a little bit about what type 2 diabetes is. I am not a doctor. I'm not going to try and explain the mechanisms behind it or anything like that. But basically, in a nutshell, type 2 diabetes occurs when your body isn't able to use the insulin that it's producing properly, and as a result, your blood sugar is affected, and your glucose builds up in your blood, and that can damage your blood vessels and put you at a higher risk for heart disease and blindness and neuropathy and all those kinds of things. So it is something that it is largely a lifestyle disease. It is something that there have been a lot of studies done to show that what you eat and how you live can massively affect your risk for and or situation with type 2 diabetes. And that's really good news in the way for people who have it, because it means that if you have it, there's a lot that you can do, a lot of things that you have control over to be able to manage or even reverse the disease sometimes. There has been some confusion over the years about the types of foods that are helpful or unhelpful for people who are dealing with type 2 diabetes to eat. But these days, there's a pretty good consensus about this from health organizations that deal with people who have type 2 diabetes or help them, doctors, scientists, researchers who have done a lot of study around this. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. But before I get into it, I just really want to put a note out there. It's obviously important to note that everybody is different. People may not, people who are listening to that, if you're dealing with something other than type 2 diabetes as well, you may have other health issues that come into this. So it's really important for you to talk to your doctor, nutritionist, dietitian about your situation. This is meant to be some general information rather than specific advice. So I just wanted to say that up front. So let's talk about fruit. Fruit has been a particular topic of confusion, as this person who wrote in indicated, because we know that fruit is sweet. It contains sugar. It contains a sugar called fructose that has gotten a massively bad rap and for good reason, in the news. When fructose is extracted from fruit, it can be very damaging. So this is, I think, where some of the confusion comes from around whether fruit is okay to eat or not okay to eat for people who have diabetes. There's often a lot of fear around fruit. So it's really important to note that eating fruit, a piece of fruit, is not the same as eating a piece of cake, drinking fruit juice, or even having white flour or something like that that's unrefined. Those things have free sugars in them. Eating a piece of fruit, fresh fruit, you are eating all the fiber and the nutrients, the vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals that come naturally packaged with that piece of food, and your body handles it very, very differently. And the amount of sugar in that is a lot less concentrated than you're going to get in, for example, fruit juice. And your body can handle it, even if you have type 2 diabetes. In fact, Diabetes Canada, as well as other organizations that help people who have diabetes or guide people who have type 2 diabetes, recommend eating fruit and say that it's not only okay, but it is helpful for them to do so. And that's because fruit has all kinds and a variety of fruit too, not just berries. Berries are wonderful, and I would never discourage anybody from eating berries, but also include the apples and the pears and the what else? Oranges and all of those other different kinds of fruits, because just as I was talking a couple of weeks ago about eating different kinds of greens because they have different kinds of fiber and different nutrients, even though they may look the same or seem the same, eating different kinds of fruit that are different colors, have different fiber, different types of fiber, different types of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients in them. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you're only eating berries. You want to make sure you're getting a wide spectrum of fruits and vegetables and food in general, plant-based foods in general. So like I said, there have been studies done that show that plant-based that fruit is a beneficial thing to eat for preventing type 2 diabetes, and that it's a helpful thing for people who have diabetes to include in their diet. And I will include those links below this video. As well, I'm going to include the link from Diabetes Canada that does talk about portioning what you're eating, because obviously things like mangoes or fruits, pineapple, maybe that fruits that are higher on the glycemic index, especially, it's good to make sure you're not eating huge volumes of those at a time, because of the amount of sugar you might be getting from something that's higher in sugar. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be eating those things. It just means that you want to be aware of how much you're eating and make sure you're in control of that. The other thing, as I've already mentioned, fruit juice is not the same. Even pure fruit juice, it has a lot of sugar, concentrated sugar. So it's something that probably most of us should be avoiding anyway. And dried fruit is also another thing. Again, it's been altered from its original form. So really that's the key. If you're eating a fresh whole piece of fruit that hasn't been altered, then you're good to go. You don't want to eat dried fruit if you have type 2 diabetes, because that will have a higher concentration of sugar as well, because all the water has been removed in that case. In terms of vegetables, incredibly important to eat a good variety of all different types of vegetables as well. Again, they are have all different kinds of vitamins, minerals, nutrition that is going to help your body to heal itself when you are, and bring itself back to balance if you're in a state of imbalance, as would be the case with type 2 diabetes. So vegetables tend to be high in nutrition and low in calories. So they are really, really beneficial for all of us, whether we have any kind of disease or not, to include lots of on a regular daily basis. Again, sometimes people think that eating carrots or white potatoes is not a good thing to do if you have type 2 diabetes, because these are sugar, carrots tend to be higher in sugar, and white potatoes are known for increasing blood sugar levels. And again, it's just a little bit about having a little bit of knowledge. You can make different choices. You could have sweet potatoes, which are more nutritious than white potatoes anyway, and they are lower on the glycemic index, so they won't raise your blood sugar as much. But again, in this case, it's not about avoiding the food altogether, but just making sure with those particular foods, like white potatoes, you're not eating only white potatoes, and you're not eating them all the time, and you're not eating a ton of them. So again, it's about the portion size rather than avoiding that food altogether. What else did I want to talk about? Just a few rules, or it's not rules, but guidelines, tips that are well accepted to be helpful for people who are dealing with type 2 diabetes. Really a whole foods, plant-based focus, whether you're completely plant-based or not, just including lots and lots of whole grains, legumes and beans, fruits and vegetables is a really, really good idea. And I mean, I would say that's true for anybody, whether you have type 2 diabetes or not. But certainly if you're trying to manage or put your body on a healing path from type 2 diabetes, that's a really good thing to focus on. And there are reasons for this. The reasons are that this type of diet is really high in fiber. And fiber is a key thing for somebody who is trying, it's a key thing for human health in general. And this is really where your beans and legumes come in. When I, in my classes, ask people where they think they're getting their fiber from, the first answer is almost always vegetables. And vegetables, of course, have different kinds of different fibers in them. They have different, or they have lots of fiber in them, but they are not the superstars generally. When it comes to fiber, this would be your beans and legumes and some whole grains as well. These are really the superstars that pack a lot of fiber into them, lots of soluble fiber, which is really helpful for heart health and supporting gut health, and really helpful for type 2 diabetes as well. So the other thing is that beans and legumes have lots of plant-based protein in them, which is really helpful for managing blood sugar. So you really want to make sure you're getting your beans and legumes. So your chickpeas, your black beans, your kidney beans, your hummus, anything that's made with them is a good thing too. Your lentils, I think. Did I say lentils? Lentils are a great one. And then in terms of it's a great idea to also focus on foods that are lower in fat, which tend to be whole plant foods. So we're not really talking about the packaged veggie burgers or veggie cheeses or veggie ice creams. There are lots of those things on the market these days because plant-based eating is very popular, but those are not generally going to be the foods that are going to help you to be more healthy. The ones that you want to focus on are the ones that don't come in packages. They're the things that you're going to find in the fruit and veggie aisle, in the bulk section with the beans and the whole grains, really as simple as that, unprocessed whole foods as much as possible. And in terms of low fat, one of the reasons is that weight management tends to be important for people, not everybody, but a lot of people who have type 2 diabetes. Weight management is one of the issues that they are looking at dealing with. And in a lot of cases, this is when people do lose weight or tend to be on a low fat diet, insulin they've seen it start to work in people's bodies again. And this is where the reversing piece comes in. I'm going to include some information from Brenda Davis, who is one of our wonderful Canadian dietitians. This book, Kick Diabetes, if you have type 2 diabetes, you get a copy of this. It has lots of recipes. It's got all the information that you might want to know. And she helped to create our new Canada Food Guide. She's a wonderful Canadian resource, but there are tons and tons of people who are doing work in this area, and I'll include a bunch of resources below that you can check out if you're interested in looking at a plant-based route. By the same token, avoiding, of course, high-fat, greasy, junk foods, added oils is helpful when you're trying to lose weight and deal with type 2 diabetes. So that's another good guideline. Drinking water instead of sugary drinks, even coffee or tea that has sugar added to it or sweetener added to it. Water is going to help to flush our system of toxins and do all kinds of, really just hydrate our body and allow it to work the way it's meant to. Avoiding alcohol is another one. Alcohol is something that we know raises blood sugar, increases cancer risk. Not a good thing to include on a daily basis or at all. If if you're dealing with something like type 2 diabetes. So I just wanted to go over some of those guidelines. And then in terms of this person asked for a recipe that would be good for somebody who has type 2 diabetes and that they might be surprised at. I had a hard time with this one because basically all the recipes I put together are whole foods plant-based. So really almost all of them would be good for somebody who has type 2 diabetes. But I thought that I would feature one, and I'm not going to make it today because I have made it many times. What I am going to do is share the recipe, and I will share a picture of it. It's very easy to make, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things. And what it is, it's inspired by the Minimalist Baker, but I adapted it to take out some of the added oil, and I adapted the dressing recipe a little bit. So what it is basically baked Mediterranean sweet potatoes. And so you can either bake the sweet potatoes, and you can do that. I love doing that by just baking them whole, but that does take a little longer. You can also cut them in half, put your oven at 400 degrees, put them face down on a baking sheet, and cook them for, it depends on the size of your sweet potato. This one's fairly big. It'd probably take about 30-40 minutes. Some smaller ones can take as little as 15, but they do tend to be, you want to cook them properly. Another great way to do sweet potatoes is in the Instant Pot. So similar to how I did the squash a couple of weeks ago, you have your Instant Pot with the trivet inside, put a cup of water in the bottom, and then cook for, again, the time depends on how big your sweet potatoes are. So I'm going to put a link to one of my favorite sites that gives actually a really good overview of how to cook sweet potatoes in the Instant Pot and how to decide how long to put it in for based on the size of your sweet potato. But that's a really fast way to do it. It tends to be a little bit faster. So, and cook a bunch of sweet potatoes at a time, because you can use these for snacks. You can use them for all kinds of different things. Again, in the recipe, I'll include some more ideas for things you can do with sweet potatoes. So the sweet potato is the base of your meal, and sweet potatoes are incredibly high in vitamin C. They've got a really great soluble fiber, types of soluble fiber in it. So it's really filling and satisfying. So they're a really good thing to base a meal on. So I cut that in half, open it up, it's soft, so I mush it up a little bit, and then I put some roasted chickpeas on top of that. So this is where you're going to get your beans in today. If you're looking for a demo on how to do roasted chickpeas, I did that in one of the episodes, and I'll link that below. I can't remember exactly which number it was, but this is a really nice thing to have on that. Then there's the parsley and tomatoes, which are all ripe right now, in season. So you can get those beautiful little, either just some regular tomatoes and cut them up, or some cherry tomatoes and half them. Combine them with some parsley and lemon juice, put that on top, and then the dressing is a tahini dressing. It's absolutely delicious. It's so simple. It's fast to make. The sweet potatoes take a bit of time to cook, but it's hands-off time. So, and you can batch cook this. So you can do it for a couple of meals and then just heat up the second one, and you have dinner in a few minutes. Another way you can do this is to do the same thing, base your dish with the sweet potato on the bottom, and then use some black beans. And usually when I do black beans, I usually just like to heat them up, add a little bit of Bragg's or soy sauce when I'm heating them, and they absorb that, to maybe some oregano or something like that, and make it a Mexican and infused flavor with maybe some avocado or guacamole. And avocado is high in fat, but it's one of those fats that's really helpful. Avocados are really high in fiber as well, and they have all kinds of other nutrients. So that's a good thing to include, in moderation in a diet for anybody, including someone who has type 2 diabetes. And then you could put some corn on it, maybe some tomatoes again. You could do mole sauce if you want, or some salsa or something like that. So there's lots of ways that you can have this type of meal. It's very fast. You can cook everything from scratch, but the cans do tend to be very convenient. So I love to bring up that option. Anyway, I will share the recipe for the Mediterranean version of what I just described below with a picture, so you can picture it. And that is it for In My Plant-Based Kitchen this week. If you have a topic that you would like me to talk about, or in a future episode, or something that you'd like to learn about, I think we are going to do a meal, a bowl episode maybe next, or in the next couple of weeks. I asked about that on Instagram, and there was some good, in Facebook, and there was some good response to that. So that's coming up soon. And if you have a question that you'd like me to address, fill out the form below, send it, or comment, or send me a message, and I will do that. I hope you have a great week. Happy September. It's so beautiful out there here on the West Coast. I hope wherever you're watching from is also beautiful. Have a great week, and I will see you again soon.